Well, I really appreciate all of you being here today. I'm Carol Belmont, and I'm president of the Children's Guardian Fund. And this, as you know, is our big fundraiser of the year. So we're very excited, and we really do appreciate you being here. It is my pleasure, on behalf of the Board of Directors, to welcome you and taking time out of your busy day to support the 1,400 children in our community who are currently in the custody of the state. 1,400 children. I would like to take a moment to recognize the honorary hosts who are listed on the back of your programs. Would you all please stand so that you can be recognized? Thank you for your support in making this event a success. We could not do it without you. Honorary host, please stand. I would also like to thank the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze sponsors. If your name is listed on the program insert, would you please stand so that we can recognize you? Thank you for your generosity. As you will hear later in the program, your financial support is making a tangible difference in the lives of the local children who have lost the care and comfort of their biological families. And we couldn't accomplish everything that we do without the dedicated leadership of our board of directors and our advisory board, and also our staff. Would you please stand and be recognized? We have some judges in the room with us today, and please join me in welcoming the Honorable Teresa Dees, the Honorable Durand Adams, the Honorable Charles Williams, and the Honorable Andrea McHugh. Would you please stand? And Andrea was our past president, so she's very special being here. Thank you. This year's planning committee, head by Teresa Zumstead, and including Wendy Cox, Kim McCauley, Claire Murphy, Barry Wells. Would you please stand and thank you for getting this organized? You can imagine the huge effort that it took to get all this to happen. We have a great program in store for you today, and we want you to be comfortable. So if the table centerpiece is in your way, feel free to move it. And finally, if you have not already had a chance to purchase a raffle ticket, we will have volunteers walking around for the last call to buy tickets. This year we have 3 amazing baskets. They really are. Collectively worth close to $2,000. Tickets start at just $5, so it's a bargain. Everything here is a bargain, right? Tickets will be available to purchase until 12:25 as the servers start serving your lunch. You can purchase for your chance to win from one of the volunteers walking around the tables. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy the day. The program will start at 12:25. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, folks. I know everyone is still enjoying their lunch. In fact, some of you are just beginning to enjoy it, but please continue to do so. But we do want to get the program started, so we'll have an opportunity for you to experience some of the things that we're doing. Again, I'd like to remind folks, please silence your cell phones so that they don't interrupt the program. My name is Barry Wells, and I'm a proud member of the Board of Directors of the Children's Guardian Fund, and I also have the honor of being a Guardian Ad Litem volunteer. As Carol mentioned earlier, there are currently over 1,400 children in dependent care in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. 1,400. A third of these are infants and children under 5 years of age. As you've likely seen and heard in the news, the incidence of opioid addiction and overdose has caused an increase in the number of children who are in dependent care. The numbers have continued to rise. Since I've been a guardian ad litem, I've had children as young as 9 months caught up in this crisis who have been removed from their families because of neglect and abuse. When my wife Winsome and I first moved to the area, we were often greeted with the phrase, "Welcome to paradise." And I suspect many of you heard the same thing. But for these children, life is not a paradise. And that's where the Children's Guardian Fund strives to play a vital role in bringing some sense of normalcy to the life of a child that is too often filled with chaos and heartache. The Children's Guardian Fund is a privately funded nonprofit organization that provides amazing help to children who have been removed from abusive and neglectful homes. During the past year, the Children's Guardian Fund has helped over 1,000 children. The fund provides cribs, clothing, tutoring, driver's education for teens, summer camp, and birthday gift cards, and many other things, often on a last-minute basis. I'm currently the guardian ad litem for 2 young ladies, a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they also have an 18-month-old brother. Their 18-month-old brother was removed permanently from the home as a result of shaken baby syndrome from untreated broken bones and traumatic brain injury. Fortunately, the foster family who now cares for him are very receptive, and the girls get to visit their little brother often. When I first met the 10-year-old, she's very shy, would rarely, if ever, make eye contact, and had very little to say. Subsequently, I went to meet with her teachers at school and her guidance counselors, and I learned that she likely was not going to pass to the next grade. She was bullied in school and herself had been doing some bullying of her classmates. So I immediately called Jan at the Children's Guardian Fund to see if we could get a tutor for her. And true to form, Jan had a tutor for her the next day. And not just any tutor, a professional educator with a PhD who's been working with this young lady twice a week since March of this year throughout the summer. I'm happy to report that through her hard work and the help of her tutor, she did pass to the next grade and has a ways to go, but she's moving. She has literally found her voice both figuratively and literally. Literally in the sense that she has a lovely singing voice and has found a part in the school spring play. Now when I meet with her, I sometimes have to wave my hand to get a word in edgewise. She's so enthusiastic and positive. It's like a sea change to see that in a child. Another group that we don't often think of when we think of children in foster care are teens that are aging out of the system, as they do at 18. Many have nothing with which to call their own to start their new lives, nothing really to get started on. They may rent or share an apartment or rent a room in a private home. They all need basic necessities to do that. Thanks to a donor's generosity, the board recently approved a program called Totes for Teens that is designed to help the teens with some things to get them started. So depending on their needs, the staff assembles totes, a bathroom tote that include towels and sheets and pillowcases and bath mats and the other things that you need, a kitchen tote that will have dishes and cutlery and plates and so forth. Other necessities that you need to have for independent living. So whether it's a crib for a child or driver's education for a teen, the Children's Guardian Fund is dedicated to improving the lives of dependent children in our community. In the following video, you'll meet the Freihat family and hear the story of their journey into fostering children. But before we start the video, I'd like to thank Candace McEllier. Candace, where are you? Where's Candace? Candace, would you stand up? Candace was very instrumental in helping us to produce that video. Thank you very much, Candace. And so now we will enjoy the video, so enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
A free after-school program in Bradenton is where volunteers Nick and Christy Fryhot first met a family that would change their lives.
They were our first family to sign up. They were homeless, and Mom had just gotten a job. There was 5 siblings, 4 girls and 1 boy, 12, 10, 9, 7, and 6. When we first met the kids, they were pretty dirty, you know, just wild too, you know, not a lot of behavioral problems. So Mom's never had a home on her own. They've lived on the streets, but have stayed at different homes with people in and out, never a consistent. Each school year we just received their packet. They've been to 3 or 4 schools each school year because they're always on the move.
And the mom was in the foster care system as well.
Mm-hmm.
She was removed from her family, so it's kind of a cycle we're seeing.
One Sunday morning, the Fryhots saw the children walking along a busy roadway with Mom's boyfriend.
Seeing them that Sunday morning walking just in their pajamas, filthy, with a bag of chips, and learning that they had been at the homeless shelter and they have to be out by 7 a.m. and there's no place to go. So they were walking to the playground to play, and we had pulled over and asked if we could take the kids to go get ice cream, maybe have a play date with our child, and boyfriend was able to give us permission. And
The smell of when Gerald got in our car was so bad that like it was nauseous. It was like I had to roll the window down, like I was dry heaving, like it was so bad. So we took him home and we bathed him, put him in the bath, and I ran to Walmart, got him clothes.
With Mom nowhere to be found, the Fryhots took the children in as non-relative caregivers. The 12-year-old found her birth father and went to live with him, but the others were in bad shape.
so the second to oldest was 10, and we had known her through the Dream Center. She had some severe behavioral problems there. It was very hard to contain her. She would get suspended. But then we, came to find out that she had been severely abused. She had been through a lot. One of the children came into our home not knowing how to properly use the bathroom. The youngest had went number 2 in our trash can, and she told us that before coming to live with us, that when they lived on the streets, that they would just have to go wherever they were.
Homeless their entire lives, the only beds they knew were at the Salvation Army.
I wasn't able to sleep, but it was good. We had to take a shower, we couldn't take a bath, we had to bring our own food.
With a daughter of their own, coupled with the children's severe behavioral challenges, the Fryhots could only foster Victoria, age 9, and Sandra, age 6.
She could not use utensils to eat. She ate with her hands, and she would eat and do this. She would eat out of the trash can. And we'd say to the other ones, like, why is she eating out of the trash can?
Sandra, showing off her new eating skills, is now almost a different child.
This and then scoop it with a fork or a spoon.
And that's called timeout hand.
Out.
They teach us manners, they teach us modest stuff. They teach us not to be dangerous, not to be rude or selfish.
The Children's Guardian Fund has provided these girls with money for summer camp,
I did sports. It was soccer. We have a soccer shirt.
tutoring, school uniforms, supplies, clothes, and more.
All of our clothes are clean, every day. And today I got brand new clothes that weren't even wore yet.
They were able to go to drama camp and go to sports camp and gymnastics And then they got to perform at the end of the week to show the parents, and just to see their face light up and tell us every day what they got to do and swim. It was amazing. To be able to, as a foster parent, to provide that for them and see them happy was awesome as well.
And I also play gymnastics. Yeah, I can put both of my feet behind my head.
I think that some people are called to foster and some people are called to give. And if you're financially able to give, you're able to give to a child, to give them this opportunity. When children are taken away, they leave behind pets, their clothes, their stuffed animals. When you give, you're able to give that back to them. They're able to start a new life.
For these children to live as close to normal lives as they can possibly live under the circumstances, they shouldn't be wanting for anything, and they are. They generally come into care carrying minimal possessions, minimal clothing, and not really having been used to having the things that they need. So it's incredibly important to the children, and I think it's made a huge difference in the outcomes of the cases.
For Christy, a former foster child herself, this journey is personal.
I want the girls to be confident. I want them to feel safe. I want them to grow up and to get married and not bring their baggage with them. I hope that they heal, that they're able to get the proper therapy that they need if that's needed down the road. I want them to be able to have the opportunity to go to school, get an education, not let any of this be a reason for them not to get in to college. I hope that they're able to have children one day and not be afraid to have children and feel that they're going to fail. I hope that they know that they can be a good mom regardless of their upbringing. I hope that we were able to show what it's like to be a mom and a dad, a wife and a husband. I hope that they can truly love their family like that they always wanted.
I have a lot of things I want to be whenever I grow up. I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a house cleaner, a construction guy.
But for right now, she just wants to feel normal.
Hi. That was a very moving video. And Candace, wherever you are, I want to thank you for putting that together. I'm Teresa Zumsteg, and I too am a proud member of the Children's Guardian Fund. And before we begin our panel discussion, I would like to introduce you to two very extraordinary people who you saw in the video. I want you to join me in honoring Christy and Nick Freihart. Please stay up. I just want to say that you truly live and exemplify the words, love without limits. Victoria and Sandra are two very lucky little girls to have these two people as their foster parents. Thank you again to Nick and Christy. As you heard from Barry, there are more than 1,400 children in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties who have stories that contain similar elements of abuse and neglect that you heard in the video. And I think the video powerfully demonstrates what you and the Children's Guardian Fund can do to help these children. You know, think about it, and I know a lot of you have grandchildren, some of you have your own children, you have a favorite niece and nephew, and at 6 and 8 years old, you should be thinking about play dates. You should be thinking about learning how to read. You should be thinking about being a princess or a superhero. You should not be thinking about, where am I going to find food in this garbage can? Where am I going to have to go to the bathroom? Or where am I going to sleep tonight? And I think that seeing the story of Nick and Christy is really a very powerful message of what we can do for these children in our own community. So we are going to have a little panel discussion, but we're doing something a little bit different this time. We're going to have audience participation. And I do not want you to run out and go to the bathroom right now, because we'll only call on you. So we're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. But I would like to first invite our panel to come up here. We have 3 wonderful people who are going to talk about more things we can do to help these children. So we have Connie, we have Judy, and where's our little star guitarist? Lucio. There you are. Come on and have a seat. So you do have a biography of each of these people in your program, very brief, but I do want to share a couple of things with you about this panel and their expertise. First, on the end, I want to introduce retired Major Connie Shingledecker. She is retired from law enforcement, but she's still working a lot. She's very well known in the community. She's been a speaker here. She speaks all over, and people know that she's a fierce advocate for all children, but particularly for children who have become wards of the state. She is someone who has a reputation for telling it like it is, and we're very honored that she's on our board. Next to her is Judy Sharple. Judy has been a guardian ad litem for the past 12 years. She was also a former English teacher, so watch your grammar around her. She's an extremely caring individual who's passionate about helping children improve their lives. She has a wealth of knowledge about being a guardian ad litem, and I know you will really appreciate hearing from her. And then our very, very special guest that we have here is Lucio Aldevero Alvarez. Now, in his bio, it says that he attends Booker High School. That, in fact, is not true. He attends Sarasota High School. But I can tell you he's very hardworking, he's very industrious. He goes to school every day, then he rides his bike 3 or 4 miles to get to Surf Speedy. He works there until 6 o'clock at night, then he rides his bike home, and then he tells me sometimes he does his homework, sometimes he doesn't do his homework, but he always plays his bass guitar. He is skipping school today, but it's for a very good cause, and so Judy said it would be okay if he was here. Judy is his guardian ad litem. So please give a warm welcome to our panelists. So I am going to ask the panelists each one question, and then I have Kim McCauley, who is also a board member, in the audience, and you can raise your hand and you can ask a question to our panelists. So we're going to start, and Connie, I will start with you. And I want to know, even though you are retired, could you please tell us what you've been working on in Manatee County and where I know the removal rates of children due to neglect and abuse are still very, very high?
Yes, in Manatee County last year we removed over 440 children, and this year to date, and that's including the month of October, we've already removed 411. So the situation is still very critical, and many of those children are exposed to substance abuse and domestic violence and a variety of other issues. So I'm going to tell you something that we've been working on in Manatee County as we become involved in drug-endangered children, and we're working to identify who these children are, because in not every instance do we know who they are. How many of you have heard of Handle with Care? Anybody? There's a few hands. Handle with Care. Okay, we learned about Handle with Care from West Virginia, and we started implementing it in Manatee County in April of this year. So essentially what it is we identify through either child protective investigators or law enforcement when a child has been involved in a traumatic event. And that can be watching a parent overdose, being a witness to domestic violence and a parent be arrested, or being the victim of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, or having a traumatic accident. So it can be any variety or number of things. And the officer or the child protective investigator fills out a one-page document that just says, handle this child with care, and it is submitted to the school through the school board, and the counselor, the nurse, the principal, and in some instances the teacher and the school resource officer are made aware that this child has experienced a traumatic event. They don't tell them what it is, but they just say, handle with care. So that child, let me give you an example of how it might work. Johnny shows up at school after being up most of the night because his mother was involved in a domestic violence incident. Her boyfriend was arrested. This happened at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine he probably didn't sleep much that night. So he gets to school the next day, and he's supposed to give a book report. And the teacher is aware that there's a handle with care. She doesn't know what's happened, but she says to Johnny, Johnny, I really need you to give up your spot today to another child who has to give their book report early. Would that be all right with you? And the look of relief, this actually happened, the look of relief on that child's face was just overwhelming, that just that simple understanding that the learning switch is going to be off for Johnny today. Johnny is a handle with care situation. And so Johnny doesn't have to give his book report that day. And it changes the whole dynamic for him. So we're really finding about 50% of we've had about 140 cases. This is not counting children that are removed. We've had about 140 cases in Manatee County now that have, since April, that have come through as a handle with care. 50% of those handle with care notices are coming in between 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. So that means that that child, in many instances, is not getting the sleep that they need, and their learning switch the next day in school is going to be off, and we have to recognize that. We are trying to become a more trauma-informed society and community by making sure that we're educating our educators at school about what trauma is. And I'm going to also mention something called ACEs. How many of you have heard of ACEs? Adverse Childhood Experiences. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Well, for those of you that haven't heard about it, you can go to the Centers for Disease Control website and learn a little bit more about it. But it's children that are exposed to trauma at young ages and what it does to them. And it can actually remap their brain. And the more ACEs that you have, the more at risk you are. And children that have 6 or more ACEs, they've found this out by doing a study of adults that were exposed to early childhood trauma. They are likely to die 20 years younger than the other folks that have not had any ACEs or exposure to ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. It's really, really well worth your while to go on to the CDC's website and look and see what that's all about. So as we learn about ACEs and we learn about what trauma does, guess what helps these kids get through all of this? It's something called resilience. And that's because they've had a positive interaction with an adult, like a guardian, that has turned their life around, that has shown them that they're not alone, that it wasn't their fault, that there are others that this can happen to, and that people care about them, and that there's going to be something positive that can happen in their life. And it can literally turn things around. But as you heard about the children that were in the video, I don't know what their total number of ACEs would be, but they probably were more than 3. The child that was sexually abused, and the fact that they're traveling around, they don't have a safe place to sleep at night, they don't have food to eat every day, every one of those is an adverse childhood experience. It just adds up. And so that's why their behaviors were the way that they were, and how important it is to turn that around. So that's what's happening in Manatee County. The Handle with Care has been implemented in DeSoto County, and they're working on having it implemented in Sarasota County as well. So we will be a trauma-informed Handle with Care judicial circuit is what we're hoping. So that's kind of what we've been working on.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you. I think we have a lot of aces in this room, as a matter of fact, so thank you so much. And speaking of aces, we have Judy. And Judy, just before you start talking, I want to give a quick thank you to you and all the guardian ad litems. You are such special people, and you are aces in these children's lives. So Judy, I want to make sure that my grammar was correct. So we'll see if I have this correct. Judy, as a guardian ad litem, what are some of the items you requested for children for whom you advocate?
For whom? Very good. Thank you. I realized as I knew I would be making comments this morning, I looked back at the years and the things I've requested from the Children's Guardian Fund, and I realized the saying, it takes a village. Not just financial assistance from everyone, but gifts in kind and everybody's help. I'll use Lucio as my example, since he's sitting right next to me. When Lucio came into care almost 5 years ago, the first thing I requested from the Children's Guardian Fund was art supplies. Besides being a musician, Lucio is a very talented artist. He can do a sketch portrait that is spot on of whoever he is drawing. A bike for Lucio, and we have different stages of bikes here. Lucio uses his bike now to go to and from school. He uses his bike to get to his after-school job. The Children's Guardian Fund has also donated many inner tubes. We pop a tire a week. No, not a tire a week. It just seemed like a tire a week. Laptop computer, Mark Scharf, thank you very much. Mark Scharf is our advisory board extraordinaire person who scours the area for laptops that he gets refurbished, and then we donate them to our teens. In fact, Mark, if anyone has a laptop to donate, see him. He'll be glad to take it off your hands. In fact, Lucio had a laptop that after a few years we traded in for a more current, more recent laptop. Thank you very much. Tutoring. Lucio received an academic award, Bob Bernhardt. Thank you very much for continuing to fund the academic award program. Thank you very much, sir. Gifts in kind. I remember Carol and Betty Ewing, Carol Sigler and Betty Ewing, who had a sweatshirt drive, and they would solicit sweatshirts from their friends every year when the weather got cold. Cell phone service. When Lucio started his job, he needed to have cell phone contact. At 17, 18 years old, you can't do without a cell phone for communication. A job. A chance comment from Tina Murkowski to Eileen Rosenzweig and Jan Vestal. Got an interview for Lucio for a job. He's now working after school part-time and likes his job very much, and they like him. The Appropriations Committee, Barb Dittman, Jeremy Carter, Emily Garriott, Marianne Sharp, who honor these requests. And believe me, Guardians Ad Litem, with 1,400 children in care, Guardians Ad Litem make a lot of requests, and we are so grateful when the Children's Guardian Fund comes through with the enrichment items that these teens need. Kate Thorpe, thank you for backing me up, my supervisor. Nikita, Lucio's in great hands now with you. Nikita Rutland, sitting in the back. My last thanks goes to, and I can't see her on the podium, but Jessica and Jody and Brett, thank you very much for providing your home for Lucio now.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we're going to turn to Lucio, and we're going to ask him a question. And when I was talking to him the other day, I said, don't worry, there'll just be like 390 close-knit people in a room. It won't be that difficult. But he said, no, I want to do this. So my question for you, Lucio, of all the things you have received from the Children's Guardian Fund, what's the most important thing you have received and why?
That would be my bass here that I have. I got it. It would be my bass that I have right here. I spent a lot of time playing it. I think close to like 10 months I've been playing it, right? Since I've been playing my bass, I've had a lot more ear for music. So the songs that I listen to now, I mainly start listening for the bass and try and find more methods and tricks to get better at songs. One of my favorite methods is playing at least 3 hours in the dark with my bass, just so I can get a feel for it.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the things that I remember you sharing with me is that his bass guitar is very calming to him. It brings joy to him. And we even talked about sometimes almost a meditative feel to when he plays the guitar. And he's had a lot of changes in his life. He's had a lot of chaos in his life. And so this is what we talked about in terms of why this is so important to him and the Children's Guardian Fund being able to give him this. So now what we'd like to do for some very brave people is raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question of one of our panel members here. And there's Kim standing up in the middle. If you just raise your hand, she will come over so you can ask a question. You have any people? Oh, I see one. This tall guy. He's a big guy here. Stand up. I'll hold it for you.
Do you have any more examples of what, donations towards dance lessons or different things that you do so people here can know how important those gifts are? Sometimes we may think they're not as important, but if you could elaborate a little more.
Judy?
Thank you. Good question. I gave examples for Lucio, but he's a teen, but many of our children are in, our younger children. When we said we had 1,400 children in care, I'm not sure if you know what percentage of those children would be in foster care and what percentage would be in relative or non-relative care. Surprisingly enough, only about 1/3 of our children are in foster care, which leaves about 1,000 children in relatives or non-relative care. And those caregivers do not receive the same amount of financial assistance from the state as foster care caregivers. So, for example, guardians ad litem are absolutely thrilled when children are placed with relatives or non-relatives, and we can count on the Children's Guardian Fund for initial emergency assistance before services kick in. For example, beds, bedding. Very often grandparents will take in their children, and we find that they say that they'll be sleeping on the floor. Beds, bedding, diapers, those kinds of items before the services kick in. And then we go to the enrichment things for children. Through the years, I've worked with about 85 children through the years. For younger children, it's items like paying for school field trips, things as little as that they're so appreciative of. Music lessons, as you said, dance lessons, sports, very popular with younger kids that they can play sports at their schools or neighborhoods. Summer camp is hugely popular. We send kids anywhere from Bible camp to sports camps that are popular, to NASA space camp, to science camps, to zoo camps. It's just amazing the opportunities that they have in the summertime. Again, tutoring, some of the things we've already mentioned for these younger children that are so essential. One thing I forgot to mention about Lucio, and these are for younger teens on up through 18 years old, is we're very on board with driving lessons for teens. Most teens in dependency never learn to drive, and this is something that is such an essential life skill for teenagers to learn. We request for teenagers funding for the pre-testing that you have to do for a learner's permit, funding for the learner's permit itself, and the learner's permit is hard. Do you know how many feet away from railroad tracks you have to park? Who cares? But it's a hard test. They perform, they have funded that. They fund the license itself. They fund driving lessons. Lucio has already received driving lessons. He's going to receive more. All kinds of things that, again, it's enrichment things, but it's so important in these kids' lives not to just have the necessities. Pictures, school pictures, class pictures that they don't have $25 for, to buy the end of the year class pictures, things that are so important.
Judy, you'll be happy to know that I have never written a ticket for someone being too many feet close to it.
That is good to hear.
We don't really care.
Thank you, Connie. You know, and they keep funding those bicycle inner tubes, which I'm just so thrilled about, and more inner tubes.
Well, I have to tell you, I know there are other questions out there, but our panel's going to stay around. Our board members are here. Our guardian ad litems, our employees. You can ask more questions, but I think this should get some thoughts going for all of you. I would hate to have Lucio have brought his guitar and not have time to have him play a little bit of his guitar, so bass guitar. But here's what I want to tell you. As we were talking about it, he doesn't read music. He's not playing by ear. He doesn't have lessons, and he's only been at this 10 months. And he's teaching himself through YouTube. I can't even do a recipe through YouTube. And he is teaching himself how to play the bass guitar. So, Lucio, I thought, why don't you start? Do you have your pick with you? I know we were kind of missing out that. All right, let's see, just do a little bit of a tune using a pick with the bass guitar. All right, plug it in. You keep it in your mouth, that's very good. So show us how different it sounds just using your fingers, no pick. Sounds very jazzy. Very nice. Bravo, bravo, very good. And in the interest of time, we'll just do one more, and this is the slap method. My personal favorite, by the way. So let's do the slap method on the bass. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. So this is his first appearance. He is hoping that he will be in a band someday. So 5 years from now, maybe you can come back with your band and entertain us at the Children's Guardian Fun Luncheon. So I just want to thank our entire panel, Connie, Judy, and particularly you, Lucio. We really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. Okay. So finally, I would like to introduce Wendy Cox. Now, one of the best things about being a Children's Guardian Fund board member is you have the opportunity to meet many, many amazing people. You have met several of them today, Christy and Nick, Lucio, very, very great people. But one of the people I've had the pleasure to meet is Wendy Cox. Wendy is an attorney, and she has served as a guardian ad litem. and she also serves on our advisory board. But what you may not know about Wendy is she is a yoga guru. She has very impressive biceps, so don't mess with her. She has a wonderful sense of humor, and she likes to hang out at the racetrack. And in my mind, she is a Renaissance woman. It's my honor to present Wendy Cox.
What a great introduction. But it's hard to follow an act like Lucio on the guitar. I actually just got back from Dublin where I saw U2 in concert, and I'm telling you, Lucio, you sound like The Edge to me. Well, it's a good time to remind you that Thanksgiving is next week. So I'm also going to remind you that with the elections really fresh in our minds, there are 3 topics that you cannot discuss at the holiday dinner table. All right? Politics, religion, and money. So I get politics and religion, but money? Why can't we discuss money? Who here is against money? And I'm not talking capitalism. I'm talking the money that's in your pocket money. Who could possibly argue with you at the dinner table about that? So if we all agree that we can talk about money, why don't we talk about it? I'm always asking people, how much money do you make? Or what's your net worth? Or how much did you pay for that house you're living in? Well, I don't really ask those questions. And truth be told, I'll tell you my age, my real hair color, and my weight before I'll give you my bank account balance. But that's curious, though, isn't it? Because money is way more interesting to discuss than my hair color. And money is so useful. We can do all sorts of things with money. I just love it. I like to make it. I like to carry it around. I like to spend it. I love how it slides out of the ATM right into my purse. See, it's not hard to talk about money. And in fact, I think we should say yes to talking about money at the holiday dinner table this year. And you could lead the discussion by talking about how you were able to change the life of a child in foster care through your donation to the Children's Guardian Fund. You know, Christy said in the video, she said, some are called to foster and some are called to give. And I think we know why we were called here today. Okay, so I have an idea. Let's just have some fun with your money. I do a little bit of investing, and recently I got a tip from my advisor about how you can easily double your money. So why don't we all grab a dollar bill, or a $20 bill, or a $5, or a $10. I don't see any arms moving. You need to be reaching for your purses and your wallets. I should see a lot of motion out there. You need to grab a dollar bill. I just carry around hundreds, so if you've got 100, you can just grab a $100 bill. So everybody get your dollar bills out. If you didn't bring one, borrow one from your neighbor. We need this for this exercise. Purses should be up on your laps. Wallets should be out on the table at this point. So we're going to do this exercise together. All right, now take your bill or your wad of bills, hundreds, 20s, ones, we don't care, and just fold it over. And now you've just doubled your money. Okay. I tried this out on my 12-year-old nephew. He thought it was hilarious, so we'll move on. Okay, but since you have your purses out, don't put them away yet. We're not done. We're not done. Wouldn't it be fun to do something really exciting and life-changing with your money here today? Then you would really have something interesting to talk about at your holiday dinner party. So in this next money exercise, you can use those paper dollar bills, but you can also use plastic, or if you're older like me and still carry a checkbook, you can use that. or if you forgot your purse or wallet in the car conveniently, that's okay. We have pens on the table, and we have paper that you can use because we also take pledges. And I'm thinking that if money is such a stressful topic, let's just get rid of it. And this is where I'm going to help you with that. Okay, so there are pens on the table, so pass them around. Be generous with those pens. Don't let them just sit there by themselves in the middle of the table. And you have a response card, so these beautiful programs you have, we have it conveniently situated, so sliding right out of that program is a response card with an envelope. So let's all just take that out. And you'll notice on your response card, so take a quick look at it here. Put your name on it, first of all, so we know who you are. And then there's some boxes to check. $50, $100, $500, $1,000, other. So I see, I don't know, I see some of you hesitating, not sure how you're going to fill out this card. I can see hesitation. And I understand that because, like me, you may be one of those people who has a hard time, giving away your hard-earned money. But I have a trick that I use when I feel that hesitation feeling coming on when I see a donation card. I just think about this as an exercise of checking boxes and writing numbers. Don't even connect it with your own money. And in fact, if you want to look at, there's a blank line there that says other, I suggest you just start writing down a bunch of numbers. And don't bother with periods, just a string of numbers. See how many numbers you can squeeze on that line and write really small. And I would start with a 9. And if this exercise makes you nervous, I'm starting to see people are getting nervous, ask the person next to you to fill out your card. It's easier sometimes to give away somebody else's money. Don't you think? I think it is. So while you're busy filling out your response cards, we have volunteers who are going to be walking around collecting the response cards. So volunteers mill around. I can see people are getting this exercise done to get me off the stage. So even if you just write a note of thanks to somebody who helped put this luncheon on, or somebody who was a speaker, who's making a difference in the life of a child, a guardian, you can just write that on your card. And that would be a great contribution to our organization. And I want to say thank you to people who have already made a donation by sponsoring a table, by sponsoring the event, by purchasing a ticket and coming here today. We really appreciate those contributions, so thank you for that. And we've been hearing quite a bit about what the money is used for. Just let me remind you of a couple of things the money's used for. We talked about bed and bedding and a brand new pillow for a child, a birthday gift, tutoring, music lessons, sports uniforms, summer camps, bicycles, swimming lessons, graduation expenses, school field trip fees, driving lessons, a driver's permit or a driver's license, and educational expenses so that kids like Victoria can become doctors or house cleaners. They're very important roles in our community, I'll tell you that. Equally important, I would argue. So that's what we do. We respond to the individual needs of each child because every child has a specific need, and that's what the Guardian Fund does. We come to the rescue at the time when the child needs something. So while you're busy handing in your response cards, let me recognize a few people here in the audience who have really stepped up to make a difference in the life of a child. So first we have our Guardian Ad Litem program staff, and these folks work for the state of Florida for the Guardian Ad Litem program. If you work in any capacity for the Guardian Ad Litem program, stand up, or if you're already standing, raise your hand, because a lot of you are walking around collecting envelopes. Thank you very much for your service to these children. And we also perhaps have some people here that are part of the case management staff, and I mean that broadly, so they work for the Department of Children and Families, the Sarasota YMCA, and the Safe Children Coalition. If anybody here is in any capacity in the case management staff, would you please stand? And I know a couple of you are. Thank you for your dedication. And attorneys, who advocate for these children, judges and magistrates who oversee the judicial proceedings that these kids are involved in. I know we recognized you earlier, but please stand if you are part of the judicial system who looks after these children. We appreciate your help very much. And how about foster parents, caregivers, relative caregivers, non-relative caregivers, people who bring these children into their homes? If anybody is a foster parent or a caregiver or ever has been, please stand up. And I know we have two over here with Christy and Nick. Thank you very much. And finally, we have our guardian ad litem volunteers. We have 511 guardian ad litem volunteers in our district, and I would like you please to stand so we can recognize and honor the work that you do. If you have ever been a guardian, please stand. Thank you. And if you would like to be a guardian, there's a place where you can check on the back of your information card, and we'll be happy to tell you all about how you can be a guardian ad litem yourself. You don't need to be an attorney to be a guardian ad litem. You go through some training, and it's a fantastic life experience, so please consider that. A couple organizations I just want to call out, because it's not just the Children's Guardian Fund that helps kids. There are other organizations in town here that help kids, and I just want to mention a couple because I think there's a couple people here that are associated with the Child Protection Center. Yes, okay. Shout out to them. And a newer organization in our community called the All-Star Children's Foundation. So please stand if you are part of that organization or support it. It takes a village, and we got a great village here. And then, of course, our Children's Guardian Fund staff. We just have 2 staff members. So Svetlana Kaminsky and Jan Vestal, raise your hands. I see you back there. We appreciate your hard work. The rest of our work is done by volunteers. We have 2 staff, so we have very low overhead. When you make a donation, your donation goes to help these kids we're talking about. And finally, on behalf of everybody here today, I want to thank the staff of Michael's on East. I want to thank the servers and the chefs and the dishwashers and the valet parkers and the maintenance people, the people who are going to vacuum up after us today. Thank you. It was a wonderful meal. We appreciate it. Okay, we're going to do and I want to also, one more thing before we go. You have a save the date card on your table, so please mark these important dates so you can join us and join us again next year, November 13th, right here, same place. So thank you for joining us here today. And I hope you all leave here, have a great afternoon, knowing that you really changed the life of a child through your presence and through your contribution. So thank you.